really important to the people who go there. You know, it's out of the way. You don't just walk past it and find it.
I just want to set this opportunity really, so, you know, a lot of people put a lot of stuff on, put a lot of work on, you know what I mean? And I just want to say thanks to all the people who played.
But very treasured memories. We've got to think thank for that because he really helped us no end because I was extremely encouraging.
It was a well-kept secret as the crowd that attended was one of not caring of how good a club looked. It was not a place where meatheads would go. The one crowd it was completely trying to avoid. This is what turned it into the venue it would become. It was almost a social club without membership. The whole bus station is built on top of the old graveyard of the bombed-out church, Charles Church, on Charles Cross Roundabout, of which was destroyed during World War II.
Okay, my name's Rob C. I'm here talking to Kev about the old days, about Tramps. It was a nightclub in the bus station in Plymouth. It's probably one of the first nightclubs that I used to frequent. And probably when I was about 17, 18. It was a great place. It was a place that you could go and hang out, be yourself, not really paying any attention to what's going on around you, and nobody would pay any attention to you, which is kind of how you like it, I think. And they had a great Frogger machine, which was, this is back in the days when computer games were a novelty almost. So I spent a lot of time playing Frogger in there, trying to get a little frog across the room without getting knocked over. And yeah, me and my friends used to go down there. We used to meet up at my flat, and maybe we'd spend the afternoon on Dartmoor, sort of, picking a few plants or something, and come back to my flat, and then we'd go down to Tramps, and then things would just develop. I think Benny was the DJ then, a guy called Benny. There was a few DJs in town. Andy Howard was a big DJ in town at that time, and I used to go to some of his nights, and then I went, and Benny sort of played similar stuff. It was all like unreconstructed rock, a little bit of Sabbath, or maybe some of the American stuff like Kansas and Boston and Journey, kind of shit, basically. And I didn't go for the music, I just went because it was a good scene and you could just be yourself, and they didn't ID you, which meant you could go when you're underage, which was pretty cool. And then maybe afterwards we'd go to Woods or something, and it was a slightly more adult crowd there at the time. They were probably like 19.
There was a big punk scene in Plymouth, and after the sort of clubs you went to, and the punk scene needed a new place and a new venue, Tramps became it. And that began the whole punk link with Tramps, and it's an amazing history of many bands that played.
Yeah,
it must have been around 1998, I think, and we were after the Plymouth Punks Picnic had been going for a year. We just started it off a little bit later than the rest of the country. We've been doing it since about the 80s, I think. And Plymouth a little bit later on decided to join in with the fun, and so we started organising the Plymouth Punks Picnic. Went really well the first year, and then the next year we were after another venue, and we were a little bit stuck at the time for thinking of somewhere. And our old guitarist, we couldn't stretch to Sweden, so we had to go a little bit closer to home. So we decided, hang on a minute, bus station loonies, there's a venue of sorts in the bus station, we'll go for there. Didn't know at the time whether they put on gigs or anything. I know they put on like sort of parties and things, but hadn't really sort of heard of any other kind of commercial gigs going on. So got in touch with Steve, who's the manager at Tramps, and he was well up for it. He was actually only too excited to have a load of stinking punks cluttering up his venue. And he was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. He was a star. He got very enthusiastic about it, and there was a little hiccup before we did the first Punks Picnic gig there, because I think that there was an article in the local paper, in the Evening Herald, preceding the event, and there was a gorgeous picture of me in it. And it was decided that actually I think the owner didn't actually want to go ahead because he thought that maybe we'd trash the joint, which couldn't really be further from the truth. You know, we'd bring feather dusters and hoovers with us, to be honest with you, bin bags at least. Anyway, so Steve, bless him, stuck his neck out and he said, no, I can guarantee you're not going to get any trouble, it'll be a good gig. So he did, he kind of always put his job on the line for us, and we did the gig, and it was over the whole weekend. And it went fantastic, and that from that point onwards, it kind of became our little sort of punk rock spiritual home for years afterwards. Other people started putting on gigs, which was great, and there were like a lot of sort of alternative nights going on there, and a few glorious years, it became the sort of centre of all things kind of alternative in the music scene in Plymouth. So Tramps was like our kind of second, and in some cases first home. But very treasured memories, and we got Steve.
Yeah, right, Kev. I'm Mark, formerly known as Mark Sweary McCann. I was involved with Tramps, over a few years with put on promotions and. Particularly, I suppose, with the collective of us, Sweary Collective. That comprised about 10 of us who, at a point in our time with the scene in Plymouth, things were looking a little bit, lacklustre, apart from a few bands perhaps like the Loonies playing, and Chris putting on a few gigs, and Once Over Twice playing, and Alan Jones putting on the old gig. Things were coming to a point where we were travelling away, to go to this or not, and stuff like that, going to various places to watch gigs. So we got together and we said, well, we need a little bit more in Plymouth. And around that time, I suppose, there was a big wave of second, third wave, if you want to call it, of punk coming in on the backs of sort of No Effects, Rancid, and all that. There was a lot of hardcore bands in Plymouth, Spud Gun. No Reply, yeah, absolutely. What we decided was that we were chucking £30 each. There was 10 of us. We thought 300 quid should set us, quite on our way really to put bands on. And that's what we did. We've done it for over a year, 14 months or so. We've done a lot of bands. 14 months or so. We've done a lot of bands. UK subs, Sammy Young's you put on. Yeah, Sammy Young's another gig you put on. Expensive. We had a really good time, we had to sit on the bus. Cap Down was another exceptional gig. We basically, for about a year or so, we pulled things, I believe personally, we pulled things together using the Tramps menu. We sort of consolidated and got a lot got the punks and hardcore people together, and there's some amazing times at Tramps. I think that's more of a, if you look at any hardcore punk rock crowd looking at dancing and everything, it seems like they're violent, but it's just a way of dancing. I mean, if you want to look back at videos of a bit back in 76, 77, and all that, you know what I mean? You want to see people headbutting each other, you know, that belonged to that time, you know, that was the aggressive, like, you know, sort of anti-establishment sort of perspective that was being put across at the time. But you know, as the years went on, punk became about unity, about solidarity, about getting together, DIY, you know, getting your own scene together, you know, getting your fucking man to pick up a guitar and get a drum kit together, and, you know, practice in your garage or in your local church hall, and that's what you then become part of the scene. You know what I mean? It was in your heart and your mind, and you love the music, then that's what you do. You know, you get a band together, and then.
Well, when you look at it, you think we did what, 40 months of gigs in Tramps, no doorman, no security.
We used to run our own door, didn't we?
No trouble.
You know,
I don't think we've seen any fight with that. Probably one fight.
One or two. I mean, like you get that in any nightclub or any pub anywhere in the world. I mean, the whole thing around Tramps was. It was run by, like I said, a friend of ours, Steve Pillage, who managed it. I mean, but our friends and girlfriends worked behind the bar. We basically ran the club. We'd done our own door. We had 10 of us who were working within Swery Promotions. And we also organised the door. We had a little sort of little sequence where if there was any trouble, we hardly ever had to use that. And that's where somebody would walk by the bar, switch on the main lights, so that people could then see that, you know, there was some trouble there, and that hence we could stop the gig. Policed ourselves, you know, it's the essence of punk, you know, policed ourselves, you know, we put these bands on and we've done it for ourselves.
Plymouth had a nightclub called Dubwise and a club called the Cooperage. The organiser and what would become the promoter of Root Street wanted to go down a more old school form of classic roots, dub, rocksteady and ska reggae night. As Dubwise and the Cooperage were coming to an end, it took up the so-called mantle and pushed the envelope wide open, and took the Dubwise crowd plus new people to Tramps, and created the whole Root Street part of Tramps.
The Cooperage were originally where the Dubwise was, and Dubwise had come to an end, and the whole Cooperage scene had come to an end as well and demise. And I had no venue, and I was trying to set up this my reggae night, Root Street. So basically, I'd been introduced through Colin Toogood to a guy called Steve Pillage, who had a club called Tramps up in the bus station. So I went and had a look, and it was the right place. I just knew it was right. This is the place. So we arranged to do Root Street there, and that kicked off on Saturday the 5th of November 1999. And we, funny enough, had I just got hold of our first resident DJs, Monkfish and Polecat, and basically they were introduced to me by Mikey Good from Really Good Records, and that, and we got the headliners. The first headliners were Squeak and Bloodshot, and Squeak and Bloodshot were Dubwise residents. So we kicked off that night with that, and it went off like a rocket, and it was really good. And we just went from there. And you know, Tramps was a great venue. We'd go in, put up backdrops, and nice rigs, and have all this brilliant music. And for the first year and a bit, I ran it myself, and you know, we had many people come down. We had Russ Disciple come down. He came down the following year. I started to DJ in 2000. Under the name of DJ Krusty, and you know, Tramps was really going well. We got a good crowd in it. We had our first birthday with Daddy Teacher. That went off like a bomb, you wouldn't believe. And we had local bands Foundation crew get up and come and play, and it was really, really good, and a really good vibe. And you know, it was an amazing avenue of music. But I was struggling financially, and that sort of pulled out of it for a little while. The Tramps were still going on, and And Mikey Good from Really Good Records, who was our resident DJ as well, Monkfish and Polecat had gone by then, and you know, it sort of like had its little lull, and Steve Pillage wanted to keep it on, but they didn't have the likes of me promoting it, because I was out all the time promoting it. So I came back into it, and then when me and Steve were running it, it just went off like a rocket. Derek down, first time, that was amazing, and we had like loads of bands and acts, and me and Steve ran Rude Street like clockwork. Now we had another resident DJ, Twist, and Tony Popkids came in, and you know, Tony brought that small scarry root dubby stuff, and Twist was more roots and dub, and I was like rock steady and moods and all of it, you know what I mean? I'd go through certain periods, and we just had this golden period of amazement, absolute, and then Digital Blasphemy started coming down to Tramps, and that was great, and I was involved. So you'd have one weekend, you'd have Root Street, Digital Blasphemy, and then you'd have Root Street the following weekend, and loads of people coming down, bringing sound systems down and things like that. You had the all-P lot of them, but they'd come to an end. My mate Gary from Bristol brought down Jar Tubby, an Earthquake sound system, and that was loud, very loud. You know, we had our own sound system done by Wonky, and eventually Steve bought Wonky sound system, so everything was getting great. We had Dom and Blood and Fire, we had Wayne MacArthur down, and you know, Root Street really took off. We was playing at festivals, we were playing down in Cornwall, and we were having amazing fun. We'd go in there once a month and just stack it. And you know, it was a great time, and Tramps was an amazing club, and it is, and I've been to lots of clubs around the country and around the planet, but it's right up there. And you know, we'd have these birthdays, we had Blood and Fire sound system, Toxic sound system coming up from Falmouth, we had Roots Garden, all sorts of people playing at it, and it was sort of like coming to a point, and Digital Blasphemy, I think, had finished by then, and it was going elsewhere, something like that. And I was actually in Steve's pub when he gave the keys back. He'd just been to see Richard and gave the keys back, and it was heartbreaking and that. And the demise of that, and the demise of Steve, was just incredible for that, because it was a major part of his life. And that's when I started to get to know Maggie and Eddie more, and I did. I sort of wound down as well, because I was starting my degree, you know, so I just do occasional big ones in there, and but Michelle and a friend of mine brought down some other thing, Roots Man, so there was things still going on, and Tramps was still that buzzing feeling, and there was good nights and punk nights in there, you know, all the nights were going on still, you know, but it was just an incredible experience in my life. And the last time I did a gig in there was when I brought Mad Professor down in 2010, and he rocked it. He rocked the club. We had Food Bar doing the sound system, because we get Food Bar to come in and that lot come in and do our birthday, big sound systems and things like that. And Food Bar did a sound system, and it went off like a bomb. Mikey Good and I have DJ'd, and my mate Cooler DJ'd. Mike's set was probably the best sets I've ever seen him playing. And Mad Professor just went off on one, and in 2-hour PA, it rocks in that. And I sort of came away from it, I hadn't got on with my degree, and I sort of wound Root Street down anyway, and you know, and it was a great time. And I spent 8 years in Root Street, in Tramps, 8-9 years roughly, and it was an amazing club, and the best thing I've been to, and things I've done, and it was just so incredible fun. Half the things I can't tell you what I got up in there, but it was great fun, you know, and it was good, and it was a brilliant time in my life, and I would never, you know, I've got no regrets about it, and I loved it, and I loved Steve, and I loved Maggie and Eddie, and I miss Steve every day. Steve was...
Yeah, Root Street.
And I'm Jean, basically, came to Plymouth 15 years ago, in 1998, as a student for Plymouth University, and obviously been looking for reggae nights as soon as I came down to Plymouth, but also was a great fan.
Yeah. I'm Christy. I came to Plymouth the year after John, in 99. Straight from Africa, I got back from Africa for 3 days before coming back to come to university. Obviously, one of my biggest things in my life has always been music, and reggae music is one of my all-time favourites. So when we found reggae night, it was perfect. Great way to relax, to unwind. For me, having just come back from Africa was such an experience, and I really got into my dance in Africa. They know how to party, they know how to have fun, and Bridge Street for me was the place to go and do that, to hang out, to jump around, and occasionally get messy. But it was great. All our friends came to the night. We would always go down there. We'd always look forward to Bridge Street every month. John used to DJ as well, so one of my best friends, one of my oldest friends since I've been in Plymouth, used to go to watch John play, to watch all the other DJs, the live band. Absolutely lovely. Yeah.
I remember coming to university, and obviously, you arrive in a new town, so you don't really know people too much, and people that lived where I lived in my halls of residence, at first I didn't really know the people too much, and I kind of got dragged into going out to, your sort of classic 80s nights and sort of really cheesy nightclubs, and straight off, I never really kind of stuck to those nights, people that were quite aggressive, it's a bit of a meat market, and the music was not really my cup of tea. It was, it's Raining Man and stuff like that all the time. Nothing against those tunes, but it just, it didn't do much for me. Yeah, no, and I think, I was just trying to look for people to talk to, and in those sort of nights, everybody's on the pool, so the dudes are quite aggressive to you, and the women tell you to fuck off as soon as you go and talk to them, because they know you're after them, even if you're just after a conversation, but so anyway, looking for a nice night where I could actually, listen to some nice music and I could actually feel at ease. It was great to be able to find a route street, basically, because it was a bit of a nightmare having to follow everybody to these clubs I didn't really like, and I just couldn't hook to people. I just walk around the club endlessly, drink after drink, and we would have a good time. So
Yeah, you're right. They were meat markets, big clubs, and that was the beauty of Tramps. Tramps was a really small venue. It was a cafe in the daytime, and the atmosphere. It was all about the atmosphere. It didn't take many people to fill it, but when it was filled, it was all the same sort of people. Everyone got on. There was never a fight. I don't think I ever saw a fight at a single Root Street night in Tramps. People got kicked out, people were leery, but it was there. You went there and you knew everyone, and it was such a nice night to go to.
There wasn't so much room for bouncers as well. I seem to remember not so much. Well, things seem to be quite self-contained. If somebody accidentally got a bit too drunk, people kind of sorted it between each other. There wasn't, I didn't find much actual violence really there. It was nice actually. Definitely, it was good.
Yeah. And we saw some great bands as well, live bands. It was always, you always did, not that you didn't know what to expect, you always knew what to expect from Bridge Street. It was always going to be a good vibe, good reggae, good sound system, occasionally live bands, good DJs. And you went there to unwind. It was the place to go and unwind. For us at uni, definitely I would say, there was no night better.
That was pretty much where it all began. If I wanted to go to reggae in Plymouth, that was the one. Root Street, down at Tramps, every other week per se, or one big one every month. You'd have fantastic acts. You'd have holy people right across the board coming, never any trouble. It was just like a proper unity dance, as it should be. People would be receptive to one another, looking out for one another, dancing, mingling. You'd have big acts, big sound. It was fantastic. For the location of where it was, the fact that it was a cafe during the day, completely underground club in the night, couldn't go wrong for many years. Root Street itself brought down the likes of Iration Steppers, Mad Professor, you had Adashanti, Alpha and Omega, then promoter of Root Street, DJ Krusty, otherwise known as Kev, always get big acts in. We'd look out for the locals, you know. Look to bring new talent in right across the board. It wouldn't just be one type of reggae. It'd be reggae all across the board. Dub, dancehall, this and the other. And Tramps as a club, you know, we play all sorts, different nights. But Road Street, that was the one essentially. And all the different people from right across the country, they'd know they were in for a good reggae night if they came down there. Now, never any trouble. If it was soon contained, minimal. Not a nasty place. Everyone just wanted to come for a good reggae dance, have a mingle, good skank, and get on really. That's as it should be in my eyes. Cracking little place.
Hi, yeah, I first got involved with Tramps with my dear friend Mr. Pillage, Stephen. We were actually living together at the time, up in Lipsome. He'd been running Tramps for many years, and we were both having a little bit of bad times in our life. And I started working behind the bar with him just about the same time as the Punks Picnic just started. So that was quite interesting. And from that moment it got a little bit more involved with, besides the punk, reggae nights, techno nights, which all became very popular, which was really good. With the punk people, me and Steve both found them very enlightening people, as we've never really had much dealings with punk music before that, which led us to meet these people in their local pub, which was the Nowhere Inn, which we both actually came to know and love. And that's how we met the other people to do the reggae nights, the techno nights, the hip hop nights, which was all good. On a personal note, me and Steve found these people just nice people. It's made a nice change these days. We never had any trouble with any of the people down there at all, either night, reggae nights. And it was our first instance of meeting alternative people, which led me to actually buying the Nowhere Inn, and sadly still here after 12 years, and absolutely loving every minute of it. Never having any trouble, any problems, probably drinking too much with these fellow people, but they're all just nice people. And hopefully there's another generation coming through now which is transformed, actually sadly not going to the Tramps anymore, but going to places like the White Rabbit, which is the same type of person, the alternative person, but the younger version. As with the guys that we first got involved with, must be minimal.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I used to work on the door at Tramps, and I think I did the first few years.
Okay, hi everybody, my name's Matt. Me too, I was doing the door for a short time, probably around 2007 onwards. It's quite a laugh, isn't it?
It was quite a laugh. Yeah, good times, very, very good times.
Yes, which were very interesting customers coming in, it was quite interesting. And it was a demonstration of assertiveness in action, some problems for me, I think. Because it was a cheap night, a lot of people turn up with not a lot of money.
Yeah.
Expected to pay a little money, but some people come along and think it's a cheap night. Thought they could sort of like come for nothing or pay nothing at all, and it was a scene as like we had students, punks, hippies, ravers,
I like the mix. The mix is always great.
Sexuals, aliens, a lot.
A few aliens. I remember students often used to come in and go, alright, can I get a student discount?
Yeah, right.
Christ, the stuff we used to make up. So, that's right, it goes from £6 to £4. It was never £4, it was always £3 to get in for a long time, but I used to charge them more because they'd ask for a student discount.
Yeah, honestly. You know, and then people, you know, towards the end of my time on Road Street, people started asking for royalty cards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They've been coming here for years and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, you know, trying to get people to subscribe when they're drunk and off their heads was impossible. No, anybody's trying people, but...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get a really good mix of lots of locals, lots of students, and within that you get seasons as well. So one of the kind of interesting things about Plymouth is that between June and September it really quietens down, and in fact in December it will quieten down as well. So you get a really different flavour in the summer. It'd be like the locals Route Street.
Right.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
And so you just sort of you'd work out who was a local, because you didn't know until, if you like, a lot of the students went home. But after a while I realised that some of the students would stay behind, and some of them were students but they're kind of local residents as well. And you get a different feeling.
And for a lot of new students in the city, it was their first encounter with the sort of like camp culture, like what's going on in the underground in Plymouth, But I think a lot of customers who come for that first time realise that Maggies, Tramps is a cafe, and it takes on a completely different aspect during the day.
I remember people saying, Tramps? Really? You're going to go to Tramps? Really? 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 Yeah, trust me, it will be fine, it will be fine. And the transformation was incredible. Did you see when they had all the lights and all the kind of the moving stuff, moving imagery? That was brilliant. That was Maxine and Tim that did that for a bit.
That's right.
The whole aspect of the community, the whole aspect of Tramps being like a social club, that you didn't need to be a member. You didn't go. You had to go to Tramps. You didn't want to pass them. But it was very, very community. You'd be out in the street in the daytime, and it was very much like that. And it was a very beautiful thing. It was very beautiful and harmonious and that, and it was great. And me and Steve, when me and Steve started running Root Street, it was incredible, and that whole aspect sort of thing. And it was just really interesting and nice, and I've never seen it in any club in my life. I've never felt a part of such a beautiful thing. And there was any trouble, we'd all sort it out together. And we'd all have a look at it and go, hey, come on, Ed would, be reasonable. Where most of them would think, out you go. And it was like the same with Dan as well, and digital blasphemy and all of that. And we had all those nights, and I mean it, there was no trouble, really no trouble. And it was fun, and everybody knew each other, and it was just like an overflow of someone's front room, like a house party. And I mean, we got...
Partly because of Steve as well. Steve was friends with everyone. He made them all feel welcome, and it was like a private club that you didn't have to pay for. It was just, everyone knew each other. And it was always the same regular customers. You could fill the place week after week, and you'd see the same faces. It was like as if everyone owned it, not just Steve, because everyone helped Steve.
So, Steve, Mr. Pillage, bizarre man, wonderful man. Where to start with Steve? Didn't really know what to make of us guys when we first got there. He told me later on that he thought that Tramps was going to be trashed. He was going to have to explain to the owners what he was doing letting a punk rock night happen. And he ended up having one of the best nights on the bar he'd ever had, and less aggravation than he had on any wedding reception ever. He had a great time. He ended up a big fan of the music, which he never thought he would do. I regularly saw him singing away at the UK subs on clean-up sessions afterwards. He had a great time in there on that front. As I said, yes, I was the first doorman that Tramps had. A guy called Paul, I think he was called, came along after me, tall, dark-haired fella. He was a mate of Steve's as well. And occasionally we'd do nights together, but Steve particularly asked me because he knew that I had my head around the people. I knew most of the people we were getting. It's very rare that somebody came through the door I didn't know. And even then there'd be friends of friends. There would always be some way of dealing with an issue without having to get too involved. At times, I must admit, my biggest issue was Steve himself. He was a nightmare. He loved to party. And I think in all the clubs I've ever been head doorman of, or whatever, the only club I have ever worked in where I've had to send the boss of the club home before the night is finished because he's too mashed to stay will be Tramps. But no, the way things
turned out, Steve paid for my licence. I never did the job for the money, but it was nice to get a few quid for being there. I was working at the time, I was in quite a good job, so it was only a little bit extra pocket money anyway. But it was the fact that 3 nights a week I'd be down there having a good time myself. I never had to buy a drink. It was a great time. And when Steve went on to take on the Nutley Tavern, the atmosphere there was the same. It felt like an extension of our living rooms. It's the way things work with Steve. He loved to have people around him that he gelled with. It was bear in mind he was a middle-aged, quite clean-cut dockyard who liked his sports cars and things like that. I don't think he ever thought that as he was coming into his 40s, and I don't remember his 40th, I remember being in his 40th, I don't think he thought he would be embracing some of the people he was. And he had his eyes opened. I felt quite honoured to consider him a friend, and we had some great nights out. So I still remember taking him to his first festival. We took him to Maker, and he didn't know what to make of that. That was an interesting experience in itself, to see Pillage let wild, Pillage in the woods. And it was basically a staff outing. All of us who worked Tramps decided, nah, we're not opening this weekend, Maker's on, no one's going to be about, we'll go to Maker. And Steve letting off steam was amazing. It was great. I loved it. I've never seen someone just enjoy life so much as when he was having a good time. I didn't hear about what had happened to Steve until after things had happened. I'd been told he was ill, but having left the city, moved on, and disconnected myself a lot from Plymouth for my own sake, I lost touch with a lot of people. So I didn't hear until it was not too late, because the memories are always going to be there no matter what. I would have liked to have been there to say goodbye, but that's life, and Steve would have fully understood that himself, because he grasped.
So when Kev was sat in my house one day, and I was sat with my flatmate Ant, and we were talking, we were listening to some reggae, and Kev said, "Oh, I've got this idea, I'm going to start a reggae night." And we said, "Yeah, right." But he did. He really did. But it started a conversation that night that was quite interesting, really. We're all reggae lovers, we're all music fans, and we're all kind of people that like people. I don't really get on with people that don't like people. And at the time there was lots of hate in a lot of the ragga music that was coming out. And some of the old reggae music had some kind of references to Batty Boy and all this, and it seemed to be quite cool. And you know what? For music that I love, for music that we all loved, we felt that that was something that we couldn't really get with. It wasn't the message of one love. So we had a big conversation with Kev about this. And Kev's a sound guy. He's of a similar opinion that no, it's one love means one love, and that's for everybody. So that's what it was. So when it came to sort of running the night, what was quite important was that it was really inclusive. It was for everyone. It was for everyone. It was for locals. It was for students. It was for older people. It was for travellers in the bus station that were just hanging around waiting for their bus. There's also a couple of gay pubs around the bus station area, and I remember Kev would go down and fly at the pub every now and then. I think they thought he was a bit strange. I think they thought they were just after their money and the pink pound, which doesn't exist, by the way, Kev. And we didn't have a huge amount of lesbian, gay and bisexual people or trans people, but there were a few, actually. There were a few regulars. And actually, sexuality wasn't here. If you were here for the music, you were welcome. If you were here to take the piss, if you were here to blag, if you were here to fight, if you were here to fuss, you can leave. And we were real clear about that. The vibe was a loving vibe, but it was a very clear loving vibe. If you were here for anything but that, then on you go. So we try to make it as welcoming as possible. On the door, we rarely growled, we usually smiled. We got a lot of banter and we give a lot of banter back. Sometimes we got blagged and we'd just throw people out. We weren't very easily blagged, can't blag a blagger really. So yeah, the inclusive thing worked, I think, for all of us. It worked for the organisers, it worked for DJs, it worked for the bar staff and owners, and it worked for the punters as well. I think that's why we all like reggae, yeah? So One Love really meant quite a lot. One Love does mean a lot to Root Street, and still does. And I think that ethos of Root Street, I think that's why we all kind of feel quite fond of it, and it holds that nice place in our hearts. Because even though we might not remember the details.
I suppose in essence it was... I didn't actually go originally to Digital Blasphemy because of the Digital Blasphemy night. I went because I was working behind the bar. So most of the nights I was in Tramps is because I was working. But the thing with Tramps is that you can be working behind the bar and you can still get drunk. You can still get hammered, and then you can go out and have a good time and then go back and carry on
Just
working.
one little big gathering, wasn't it?
It was basically Tramps was
everyone knew each other.
I suppose long and short, but Tramps was a group of friends that ran the club. So we ran the club for ourselves and for other people, and Digital Blasphemy was a good night. They come in, had a good, they spent ages setting up some really good graphics and really good sort of artwork and decorations, and it was just a big party. And that's basically all. Most of the nights down Tramps ended up just big parties. And
I must admit, I even enjoyed the old Digital Blasphemy evening, like even though it wasn't really my cup of tea, the music, I wouldn't play that alone, but I had some fabulous nights down there, and my wife now, Rebecca, you know, that's one of the first nights really I met her, really around that time, around that era. You know, she used to love the Digital Blasphemy, and that's where I met her, really.
Digital Blasphemy was the same as Root Street and others. After a few years of Root Street Digital, it had its turn there, and like each other, they ran like clockwork and created the amazing underground feeling. Digital was very visual based and would have a tendency to have massive rigs playing, but created the same sort of vibe that people really enjoyed, and they had a good and peaceful time.
Why did we pick Tramps as a nightclub?
We didn't start with Tramps, funnily enough. Tramps was not our first choice. The first place we did it was, what was that? Sharky's down on the Barbican. That's where we did our first event, down at Sharky's, which is just behind the Cooperage, or what was the Cooperage. I don't know if it's still the Cooperage these days, but Sharky's was the first place we ever did it. And that was small and fun, but eventually we needed to move somewhere that was a bit more relaxed, shall we say. Tramps picked up.
Well, it's funny, we were talking about this last night, and it came down really to that there was nowhere else that would be able to house what we wanted to do. Everywhere else was playing run-of-the-mill. Ibiza dance music was big at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think if you look around Plymouth at the other venues that are available, and for the sort of thing that we were doing, which was a very much alternative, underground sort of vibe, it wasn't going to fit anywhere else. And Tramps had always had a reputation for being the sort of venue where you could do something that was a little bit, you know, off the cuff, a bit more underground, a bit more up and coming, as opposed to mainstream entertainment. And the punters that were found at most of the other venues in Plymouth at the time, you know, there was just absolutely no way we were ever going to do what we did in any of those venues. It just didn't fit with the clientele. Our crowd wanted to go somewhere where they could feel relaxed and somewhere they could call their home. And, you know, Tramps very much had that feel about it at the time when it was still going. It was very much, it was kind of like a community hub for the underground background scene of Plymouth. That, you know, it wasn't about mainstream, it wasn't about the high street, it wasn't about what you were wearing. It was just about being yourself going to Tramps, and you'd always see the same people there, the same faces, and that's why we liked it. It was somewhere we could call our own, and we worked with Steve at the time, and he was just like, it's a free rein, boys. Do what you want. As long as you get the punters in and they're spending money, we don't care what you do. And that's kind of why we picked Tramps. You know, we could do what we wanted to do, and express ourselves musically, and any other way we chose to. So yeah, Tramps was it for us.
How important was the sound of our music? It was top priority for us.
Number one, the most important.
It was actually the reason why we started to do parties in the first place. One, we couldn't really access the type of music that we liked, but more than that, it was about the quality of the sound, the quality of the production. You know, and we wanted to bring that live feel back to dance music. It had been completely homogenised and became, you know, all synthesizers, all computers, and great, you know, I love that as much as the next guy, but for me it was missing that input of live musicianship, although I wasn't the greatest musician at the time, but
the point is you had to go.
That was it.
We had to go. That's the point. We were willing to have a go.
Yeah.
We wanted to do it, we wanted to try, so...
I had the confidence, but maybe not the ability, and that's all that mattered on the night. But that was all that mattered on the night, and for me, it was a chance to mix the two genres that I loved. I loved heavy metal music and I loved dance music, and to me, they fit together absolutely perfect. So to bring a guitar onto stage with over carefully crafted beats that we had spent hours and hours trying to analyse and produce and make sound right and make fit with the guitar, and then to see people react to that was, well, I'm getting goosebumps thinking.
Oh, no, me too. I really am, man. I really am. That's bizarre. But also, the other thing is, you know, if you're going to put on an event and it's about the music, to me, it makes sense that your first priority should be having crystal clear, perfect audio. And that was the other thing, you know, all these other venues around Plymouth had shitty sound systems installed. They sounded crap, they were terribly run. We brought in Opus sound systems run by various different people at the time. There was Fat Sound, there was Jody from Opus. Who was the other guy? Zeph used to come and do some Clockwork audio. And these guys knew how to use their sound equipment, and they knew how to make it sound sweet and incredible. And if you're going to put on a night that's about music, it's got to sound good. And to us, it was all about the production. The venue's got to look great, the music's got to sound incredible, and the performances have got to be top notch, and that is what we were all about.
Yeah, in that sense that we would actually go out to the Opus factory and watch these things being built, and Jody would advise us what we should be putting through there and how to
He loved it. It was a good excuse for him to bring all his toys down and play.
Absolutely. And the same with Zeph as well, you know, even though it's like a legitimate businessman, he'd be down there at the back, Digital Blasphemy, with his pipe, listening to his sound system being pushed to the limits, but without any distortion, absolutely crystal clear, but so loud it would turn your boats to dust when you stood.
Yeah, my ears are still ringing out, and that is no joke. I got chronic tinnitus.
I got away with it.
Yeah, he was the lucky one. But I would never change a thing. Yeah. That's for sure.
Root Street and Digital had come to an end at Tramps. There was another one of the club's short lulls after Badger's Ball, a psytrance night like Digital. Then, Plymouth heard the very first sound of dubstep and grime with its premiere night, Sub Heavy, followed by one of Plymouth's top house nights, Dance, Dance, Dance.
So I started a night called Sub Heavy in Plymouth in around 2007. When it first started out, we were trying to promote dubstep and grime, which hadn't really been done in this part of the country. And the problem I faced was that I didn't think there were any clubs in Plymouth, which is where I first started the night, which had a good enough sound system, especially in the bass area, given that dubstep especially, a large part of it is in the very lower frequencies of bass. And the suitable clubs that were available for this kind of thing didn't seem to think there was anything wrong with their sound systems and would not generally permit you to bring in anything extra. So that was the first problem. I became aware of a night down at Maggies, or Tramps as it was called back then, called Fat Mangoes. I knew one of the people involved with that. He had a small sound system, which, although it was small, had a very good bass response. And so, along with him, I basically, this is my friend Tim, along with him, we started up the night at Maggies. Had to kind of basically double the amount of speakers that he had, just to make it sort of big enough to fill the club. Basically because Maggies was the only venue that seemed to accept that sort of level of bass without kind of, I guess, worrying about neighbours or worrying about it rattling their optics. I found the management at Maggies to not have a problem with this. Eddie especially, being a former sort of Pink Floyd fan, was fully aware of the benefits of loud music, or clarity of sound, should I say. And so that's how it all started. Although the night spread to other places like Falmouth and Dartington and a few others, really Maggies was our home where we ran the longest. And because I'm from Plymouth, that was the mission really was to try and bring something to Plymouth. The night, I guess, ran for 5 years. So when it started off, it was monthly, and then at times we were running weekly. Tried a few little offshoot nights. Pure Jungle was one of them, where we played jungle music from 93 to 95. Also had a couple of others, killer bass lines. I can't remember if there's anything else we did, but we got a good sound in there, basically, although it rattled the ceiling tiles a bit if you turned it up loud enough.
Christian Gale, also known as Crafty Sounds, a DJ. I run a night here at Maggies called Dance Dance Dance. Been down here doing that for the last 4 years or so. But overall, probably been coming to Maggies for about the last 10 years in some sort of shape or form. I've known about it for a lot longer, obviously, like previous name Tramps, and kind of as the name goes before it. But yeah, as I said, we've been doing nights now here monthly pretty much for the last 4 years. Got introduced by Boback, Nectar Selector, who used to run Sub Heavy down here, which was one of the premier sort of dubstep and bass heavy nights in the southwest for a long time. And he asked us to come down here. We started off using his sound system. He pretty much laid it out to me one day and sort of said, I want to put on nights sort of like pretty much every week and monthly down at Maggies, are you in? Even at the time I was kind of considering reining it in a little bit, but when someone says that to you and they want to fully commit to the party scene, you kind of feel obligated, and it's just been a romance ever since. Our crowd's grown over 4 years. We've never really kind of like marketed ourselves to the in crowd or to the students, and the people who come here for the vibe, for the smiley faces, for the music, and there's a lot of old school party people here. Everyone loves setting up. It's weird kind of being it's not weird, it's amusing, the fact that it's by day a proper greasy spoon cafe, and then you transform it into this kind of like dirty little rave hole by night, and it's friendly. The staff, Maggie and everyone else here as well, they're as much a part of this night as we are. They're behind the bar when they're happy and they're smiling. They provide the ambience, they provide the sort of, they contribute to the flow of the night. So it's, in this day and age, it's a real pleasure to be still in an independent environment where everyone contributes to the kind of greater picture, and all that provides is people with happy faces, smiley faces, and people generally being very grateful for what you provide. I probably can't say much more.
But things happened along the way, and the cooperage shut down, as a lot of people will know. We moved our night to Tramps. Now, the group that we got down was, they're called Souls of Mischief. They're popular with the golden era of hip hop, kind of between kind of 1988 and sort of 96 is that period of time, and they were popular in 93. They brought a tune out called 93 Till Infinity. So anyway, we brought them down to Tramps, and the reason for this, that we decided to go to Tramps, is for one, that the cooperage was closing, and other people had put nights on in Tramps, and there were good reports coming back, and you know, I'd been down myself canvassing to find venues, and it seemed like a nice place to be. The area was conducive to really supporting the type of thing that we wanted to do, because outside from the club there's kind of like a concourse where it's under it's shaded from the elements, so you can put little events on the concourse there. So we kind of, a lot of times some of the boys like Kit and his crew would come down with the drum kit, and they'd kind of break dance and whatnot, put lino down, and they never really used to get any hassle for that. The council just let them do that. So yeah, it's a nice little area down there, you know, for putting events on. But yeah, you know, it was at the time the manager was Steve Pillage, God rest his soul, and he was the man that I talked to about putting an event on, and very approachable guy, very likeable, and other people that I knew him and kind of gave him a lot of respect. So I thought, yeah, that I'd like to deal with this guy, because previously at the cooperage I'd had some problems with the management. You know, that I won't go into that, but yeah, pretty much the manager down there didn't really have his finger on the pulse, so he kind of cut his own leg off, as it were. So yeah, we moved over to Tramps for this one night. I think it was coming to the end of our real highlight as a team. It was myself and Bloodshot Pete that used to pretty much put on the nights towards the end, and we would kind of come into a close of what we could really do for the scene as nights go, because hip hop was becoming less popular. You know, every dog has its day. So yeah, we organised the night, and everything went well. We had a good turnout. But I've got to say, it's the only time I've ever been to Tramps and there's been any trouble. And the irony is that it had to be on the night that I organised. So, yeah, we had a bit of trouble. We didn't have any security. Luckily, I've got some good mates who kind of sorted it out without too much hassle. And the night went on. It was a very successful night, and I have good memories of that. And a lot of the people that were there on the night said it was one of the best nights they'd ever had, so that made me happy. That's pretty much why we did it, really, just for the people, you know. That it wasn't about making money, it was about putting on an event, bringing the community together, and ploughing the money back that we made into doing another event bigger and better. But as I say, you know, the things were on the decline. There wasn't really that much support. We'd kind of wrung out what was left of what we were doing, so it was time to kind of hit it on the head. So we were coming to the end of that stage. But yeah, after that, my experiences with Tramps, I put on a charity event raising money for the tsunami victims. So we made some money from that, and we gave that to Shelter Box. So that was a positive thing that came of that. And you know, the Tramps were always welcoming, and they always supported everything that I wanted to do. So yeah, then I became a bouncer for a while. So I started working on the door down there, and there were various nights going on. Bob Ack mostly was running things down there with his sound system, which is probably the best sound system in the city that's privately owned.
Where can you start with Tramps? It was one of those venues that was just cool. I'm into psychobilly music personally, but I love being a musician. I love all music, and you had such a diverse culture of people. It was brilliant. There was no trouble ever. A couple of little things I've seen outside, but that's normally boyfriend girlfriend thing. Yeah, just common stuff, which is dealt with in 5 minutes. You had punks, you had psychobillies, you had rockabillys, you had rastas, you had bikers, you name it. You had every cult you could think of there, and there was never any trouble. Everyone's got on with everybody. All the politics, there was no politics. It was all left at the door, and you just got in there and you had a really good time. It was just one of them places to go. Coming back to Steve Pillage, we used to go to the Nowhere Inn quite often, frequently, and after hours, where do we go? Tramps, always Tramps. Always something happening, whether it be a punk night or a rockabilly night or a scooterist night or a reggae night even. Didn't matter. You used to go down there, and have a few beers and find a little quiet corner and to sit down and have cigarettes in them days. You could smoke in the establishment in them days. I do remember.
Both serving up that real underground scene music that is loved by so many. Tramps and Maggies always had that social club community centre feel, as well as a massive community itself. Steve and then Eddie and Maggie created this community within the venue, and it was a major part of the appeal. They all wanted that feeling, and it really happened, unlike most clubs.
It's very close to the town centre, very close to Greenbank, where a lot of our punters lived. It's actually PL4 postcode, which is something I liked about it. I lived in PL4 for a long time. And I think over the years, we grew very close to the people, the management and the staff, and similarly, we're very different people, but I think we sort of warmed to each other and we never had any problems. Very little problems in terms of trouble at the club either. I think because it's by day a bus station cafe, and maybe the overall decor and the feel of the place isn't similar to what you'd associate with a nightclub. There wasn't sort of any pretension or coolness attached to it, which meant that you've got a real wide range of people attending, and I've noticed this at other events there as well, whereas some of the other clubs, even in very similar locations, they have a bit of a cliquey sort of feel to them, and I think anyone who doesn't feel part of that clique doesn't feel so comfortable going there.
Oh, Tramps was a good place. I had a fair dance on that floor and met some beautiful people there. I made some good friends, and no, I didn't lose any, I think. Maybe the girl I kissed in the toilet once, I did lose her as a friend, but no, I'm joking. And no, superb time. I wish. Here's to what's Steve who used to run it. Hats off to him, and all the Root Street nights was good stuff. Thank you, Kev, and all the people I danced with. Sorry about me, I helped put out a place on the dance floor, tripping over someone. It was an accident, and that's enough. And thank you for the dancers for letting me get away with so much stuff. Okay, God bless.
Hi, my name's Rich Roy. I'm proprietor of Divine Sound. We were involved doing the sound systems down at Tramps, Maggies 10 years ago. Initially started providing the system with Bish Boss Sound for the nights of Digital Blast we used to do on the first Saturday of every month through 2003, 4, and halfway through into 2000. Cross-section of the social scale that you used to get in there. I mean, everybody from the students the youngsters, some with dreads, some in designer clothes. You have the slightly older generation, you know, people in suits, people in all sorts of fluorescent gear, and the cross-section of attendees to all of the different nights was across the spectrum socially. You know, you have everybody from office workers to lawyers to doctors. You know, the music and the venue brought a very special group of people together, especially for that sort of period of...
I just want to say that Kevin's gigs back in the 90s used to be a really good place where you felt a part of things, where you felt it was like a family and that everybody was your friends and you knew people, and even strangers would come and you would hopefully help to make them feel welcome. So that's what I want to say, and it was all about lifting the mask as well. I've got a mask on now, but most of that Bridge Street was where you felt safe to lift the mask. And I think that's important because I wrote a letter to the C magazine at the time, and that used to be run by Charles Shaw at the time. I think it was later taken over by Darren John. But I remember writing to that and wanting to encourage Kev, Krusty, whatever people call him, what name he prefers, to carry on doing it, because I thought it was a good service that he was providing for people and for the subcultures, but particularly with reference to reggae, because, you know, in terms of the reggae scene in Plymouth, there wasn't one really, so this was about providing one, and all the sort of stand up for your rights kind of atmosphere that was engendered by Bob Marley and other people, and, you know, white bands and various people doing that kind of stuff to challenge discrimination, taking the lead from the racist, the challenge to resisting racism, but to resist all forms of prejudice, and that's what it's about. And it's about too, the punk scene is part of that, was drawn into it. The psychobillies, all of that kind of stuff, those subcultures in Plymouth, they would come along to those gigs too, and we used to have a good night, you know. I mean, in the main, I don't remember a bad night there, some people might, but apart from one time there was a trouble with the PA systems and there was just not enough oomph to it all. But most of those gigs that Kevin did from the 1990s up until the early noughties of the new millennium, I think were successful. They would start off, I was one who would like to start the dancing, and then it would build up, and that you knew, it would build up gradually, and then you knew the night was complete. There was nothing more the night could achieve because it had reached its peak, and that's the point where everybody went home happy and you would go to bed with a smile on your face. And I was grateful to Kev for actually providing that service. And I've organised gigs myself and one festival back in the 1990s. So I know how stressful it can be to organise these events, because you worry, you've got to organise the PAs, the drum, you know, whether it's a band or whether it's a DJ, advertise it, promote it, put the fly post or whatever means you're doing it these days. Most people rely on Facebook too much, but, you know, back then we did it how I think it still should be done to a large extent, is to give out the flyers and explain, you know, and really put your heart into promoting it. And I think Kevin did that with it. He was always like around with his little bag full of flyers and reminding you when the next gig was, although he said they were quite regular once a month. I can't really remember myself now how regular or what dates in the month they were, but I know that they were quite regular and I used to look forward to them, but I did need my memory jogging as to when they were, and Kev would do that, so therefore I think everything was covered with his gigs usually. And so
Right. I've been here 30 years. I met Eddie here at the bar. Sadly, he passed away nearly 2 years ago now. But this place has been more than my home. I've met a lot of nice friends. A lot of people at the nightclubs that have been good to us. And they look after me now that Eddie's gone, which is nice. And I'm going to miss it, you know. Don't know what else I can say. We've had some really good nights here. We've met some nice people, including you, Kevin. And yeah, I'm going to miss it. It's going to be a bit lonely without it. But we're going to have some more nights. We've got some more nights planned this year. And we're going to rock them out. I am going to miss it, but I've got good memories. And yeah, I just wish Eddie was here, and Steve. Pillage, he was another nice man, you know, and yeah, it's sad, but there you go, that's been on City Fest of you. You want to go to the cinema? What do you want the cinema for? Making dead in it for me. Yeah, I'm going to miss it, recently. But I'll try to say it. You know?
Maggie,
yeah.
Maggie.
Thank you, yeah. No, thank you for everything that you've done as well. You know, you've understood how I felt. I felt like giving up at one stage when I lost Eddie, but like people like you, no, we want to keep going. So that's what I've done.
You know, it's an amazing thing, you know, this club. Any trouble with it?
Yeah, no trouble.
How many nightclubs would you say that said that?
Not any. We haven't had any. I mean, they've been marvellous. Like, you know, I'm only little, but like, if there's anything going on, I will probably tell them off. Right? And
I bet you.
yeah, you don't seem to make like oh, or else I'm very bad, you know. No, we've not had any trouble at all. No,
it's been a great venue. It's been a great, peaceful, lovely place.
It's been wonderful.
And I can't emphasise that. I've been to some of the best clubs in the world, as I said in this book.
Yeah.
And this is up here at the top. You know, and it's a shame to lose it.
Well, because like they're not just DJs, they're friends as well, you know, which is nice.
We'll look at you as
yeah, I'm bloody legend. I've got caught. I'm going to be dead before the election.
You're not definitely dead, are you?
Not yet.
And yeah, we're all grateful for you that you kept the ethos of what Steve said. Right, I'm going to deal with the bar. You can deal with this. You should bring people in and drinking. And you know, it's always been that ethos.
Yeah. Well, we got a nice atmosphere with them as well. Like, you know, they come in and we do this and just
go for it.
You know what you've got to do.
And if you enjoyed yourself doing it.
I love it. A little bit less waiting because we get into work, but I do. Yeah, I do love it, and I'm sorry it's going to go. Meet new people like you and you do very much. That's what they call progress, isn't it?
Unfortunately, we're not a part of it, are we?
No. I could come down here in about 10 years on December for it.
With your little scooter.
That's when I can have a free seat to the cinema. Yeah, that'll be fun. Yeah.
Well, I think I can speak on behalf of all the DJs and promoters that we are so grateful to you. You know, and you know, we are all sad to see this place go.
Yeah, it is. It's more than just a nightclub.
It's like a front room.
It's like a social club.
Yeah, that's the one thing that comes through this film. All the way through, it's like a social club without membership. It's like someone's front room.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's
yeah,
like a party.
you get the girls come in and